If you love a quick quilting project that is stylish, beginner friendly, and lets your favorite fabrics shine, then this table runner pattern is for you. Hey there, I'm Ladine with Sugar Stitches Quilt Co. I create fun and easy tutorials to help you finish more projects and enjoy the process. So grab your favorite fabrics or some scraps and let's get started. Today, I'm showing you how to make a simple, modern patchwork table runner using prints from your stash or maybe even a few new favorites. This table runner comes together quickly and you can easily make it longer or shorter depending on your table or where you want to use it, like a dining table, entryway, or dresser. I'm making mine in a patriotic theme for summer, but this design works beautifully for any season. Now I've got my fabric all ready to go. I have my background, squares, and rectangles already cut. And I'm using Kona Sky as a background instead of a white. I thought it would be a good match with the patriotic theme that I'm using in my table runner. And then what I did is I had these patriotic scraps that I got out of a scrap pack from a fabric shop. I have linked it down in the description below if you want to see that. And it was a really fun scrap pack. So all I did is cut those scraps into 2.5-inch squares. And then I have arranged those in groups of 4 so that I would have a good scrappy mix for each of the columns in our table runner. So I've just stacked these. You can see this is how I like to stack so that I can prepare for chain piecing. I offset them a little bit and then I can just take these over to my sewing machine, lay them out, and then start sewing. So I have these ready for chain piecing and ready to lay out. So I'm going to move my background fabric aside for right now, and I just want to show you how I'm going to lay this out for sewing. It's going to be super simple. Now in the pattern, each column has 4 patchwork squares, 2.5-inch squares. And what I like to do, as I mentioned, is lay my squares out so that I can chain piece everything together. Now, in the pattern, we're going to be offsetting these, so they're not going to be exactly in these rows and columns. You know, some of them will be a little bit longer or shorter, so they're offset. So putting them in this layout is just an idea for me to get my color scheme together. I don't want too many of the red blocks in the same vicinity, but again, I'm not going to put a lot of thought and planning into this because it is a scrappy project. I tend to be a little too organized when I'm making a scrappy project, so I try to mix it up a little bit. And then I also have the option of moving these around because I do have different fabrics in my stacks. So what I'll usually do is lay out a few squares like this, or as I mentioned, just take these over to my sewing machine and do this right next to my sewing machine. If you are making the 18 by 66 inch table runner with me, then you'll have 32 of these columns. If you've adjusted your pattern, that's okay. But let's go ahead and take these over to the sewing machine and start sewing our columns together. And the great thing about this pattern, because we will be offsetting the squares and the background strips, you can press in any direction that you like. Okay, I have finished sewing my squares together and you can see I have all of my columns of 4 squares. I have 32 of them. And as I mentioned, because we don't have to match any seams, you can press these in any direction that you like. So I am going to press these and then I will meet you back over here. Okay, I have finished pressing my strip sets, and as I mentioned, you can press them to any side that you prefer because we won't have any seams to match in our runner. So I've pressed those and I've started to lay out my strips with my background. Each block is 16 inches by 18 inches finished. So this is where I mentioned that you can make the table runner in the size that you prefer. If you want to make a smaller runner, you can do 2 blocks. I'm going to be doing 3 blocks with no borders, but then also you can add borders of any size that you would like to. So for 1 block, we have 8 columns, and I have a diagram for you of the sizes of each background piece that you need to complete your block. Here is that right now for you to take a screenshot or take some notes. I also have all of the cutting instructions and sizes in the description below. So after you've referred to the graphic that I had about laying out the different pieces, you can lay them out. I do 1 block at a time, and then we'll just simply sew 1 column at a time. And then again, you can press to any direction because we don't have any seams to match, which to me, this is why this is such a fun pattern, because I can really zip through it and chain piece. So let me start sewing my columns and then assembling my blocks. Okay, and I am back with some of my strip columns sewn together, and you can see that I ended up pressing my seams inward since my background is a lighter color, but as I mentioned, you can do it any direction that you like. I've got all of my columns laid out. You can see that because of the stacked nature of the patchwork, that you're not going to have any seams to match. And that is really why this comes together so quickly. So what we'll do next is place our rows right sides together. And so those with a 1/4 inch seam, I'm going to take care of that next. I mentioned earlier I was doing 3 blocks. I was mistaken. I'm actually doing 4 blocks, and then I have a small border. Those are the recommendations that I have for you in the description below. So I have everything laid out, and I'm going to start sewing, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and oh my goodness, this is so much fun. Take a look at my block. How wonderful. I pressed my seams. Look how cute this is. I really love how this comes together. This pattern that I designed, I decided not to make the blocks square, and I made them rectangle so that we have this extra space for the top and bottom to really set apart our patchwork. And those were a part of each column rather than a long border strip on the top and bottom of a table runner, which is usually what I do. But I decided to make them a part of each column so they're already built in. Our patchwork is centered in the focus, and then now we just have to square up our blocks. Even if your seam allowances weren't perfect, you can still just trim. You can see here I have a little bit of edge that I need to clean up, and it doesn't even matter what size your block finishes at, as long as all of your blocks are the same size. That's the key to trimming. So I am going to take care of my other 3 blocks, trim those up, and you know what? I think I'm going to be finished. Well, my quilting is all finished, and take a look at my runner. I love it. Look at this detail on the binding and my quilting. I just did a simple serpentine wavy stitch on here with a light blue thread. I really wanted the binding to stand out, and I think it definitely does. If you want some additional help with your binding, I have linked a couple of videos here below and in the description where you can take a look at some of the recommendations that I have on getting perfect binding. So I think this table runner turned out perfectly. I hope you agree. And if you like it, go ahead and grab the pattern down below. And I would love to see what you make. Tag me on social media as well. Thanks for watching and happy sewing.